All right, now, everybody, quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Up, everybody, it's our Friday show. I love the Friday audience. Great to have everyone here. Thank you. And a shout out, I just saw it in the chat, to Maine.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Maine. Who was it in Maine, Albert? There it is, Robert H. Good afternoon from Maine, everyone. Have a great weekend. Yeah. And it is Mother's Day weekend. I'm excited. Albert and I live by the credo, though, that every day is Mother's Day. Am I right, Albert?
Yep. Love the moms out there.
Love our mamas. They do the hard work. Starts right away when they're giving birth to us, you know?
They usually do all the work, Mark.
Yeah.
So
it really is amazing. And then before you know it, kids grow up and they don't give an S about the moms. Am I right? Come on, let's face it. Kids are essentially, they're self-centered like all creatures, aren't they? I mean, now they're still dependent on you, Kim, but you'll get it. They'll turn to you one day in the kitchen, flip you the bird and say, you don't know what you're talking about, Mom. It's going to happen. So, yeah, so happy Mother's Day, Kim.
Yeah,
there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like to give people the real story. If you want things sugar-coated, don't come here, okay? I'm ready to give you some optimism, some positivity, but I'm also ready to give you the real story. So that was the story in the world of Mother's Day. Kids are feral. Thank you. I think Tom is right. Tom, the keeper of the ding words. Vilma tells us today, a regular and a supporter of the Mark Thompson show. Vilma says, listening today, weed whacking in the garden.
Nice.
I can only hope that that's a euphemism. Thank you. But I think we actually are best enjoyed when there is some kind of gardening going on, either edging the lawn or weed whacking, as the case may be. I saw that show last night, the live John Mulaney show. You know what I'm talking about? It's on Netflix.
No.
It's kind of like an old school talk show. It's old school meets new school. It was pretty good. I don't know. I think on balance, I really do recommend it. It's on Netflix, as I say, and it's a live show. And there's another live one tonight. I think do it every Friday. This is the last one coming up. I thought it was good, and it's not just a straight talk show. They do some stuff there that's kind of fun. So I recommend it. Of course, I was high.
How's that
Coachella Valley
today?
coffee?
Yeah. Yeah.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. You can use the discount code MARKT for 10% off. It is literally the best coffee I've ever tasted. There are beans and blends and roasts for everyone. Everything is hand roasted. This is a true boutique kind of coffee arrangement. Look at that. Kim,
I've just been handed a plate full of chocolate-covered strawberries that were handmade in the kitchen.
That is quite extraordinary.
How am I
That really
eat them
is
now?
great.
I'll have to wait until Michael Shure comes on.
Yeah.
There's never been anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
That looks fancy. Thank you.
I also
watched do it during the news, Kim, but you're literally doing the news. That's when I achieve a lot of my feats are done during your newscasts.
Nice. I'm here waiting to comment on various news stories, and Albert is essentially walking
I'm
the
already
dog.
celebrating Mother's Day. I'm off in the weeds over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fresh crop. That's right. That's exactly what Coachella Valley coffee is. It's fresh crop.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. So I recommend it to you, and use our discount code if you
Mark T.
If you get there, Mark T at checkout. Now, Albert, I've got a lot to do today. I mentioned it to you because you are the producer of this show today. Wednesdays through Fridays, generally, Albert is here. Monday and Tuesday, Tony is here. But Albert is the curator of our regular Friday segment, Friday Fabulous Florida.
Albert, thank you.
And it is pretty terrific today. It involves things that you never would have imagined. It's pressed the very limits of what you might conceive human beings doing in terms of lawlessness and craziness. So you will appreciate it. And for those who are Floridians, and I do get this kind of email occasionally, I want to make you aware of the fact that we know it's not just Florida. You could do this about Texas. We could do this about California. Yeah. I get it. Everybody's got their crazies now. The land of crazy inhabits the entire land. It's just that you guys started it in Florida, okay? So we feel an allegiance to the state where it kind of got underway, and that's why we do Friday Fabulous Florida. That's bottom of the hour. Michael Shure in the next hour. Steve Bannon headed to prison, although,
Sayonara,
as usual,
sucker.
Yeah, it's a little bit of
Sayonara, sucker.
It's a little bit of don't get too excited. Don't have the prison farewell party yet. I mean, farewell, see you later in 3 months.
I'm a little too excited, maybe?
I think so. I think he still has a couple of appellate options.
Oh.
But it's certainly true that he is running out of appeals. So there's that. I think that's an important thing to know and to keep in mind. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
Anyway, as I was saying, Michael Shure will be here, and the Culture Blaster, Michael Snyder, will be here next hour as well. Second hour, we have the Michaels. Michael will review all things movies and streaming. So any questions you have for either, get them into us, and we will integrate them. The world is being told to brace for a severe geomagnetic storm today.
What?
It's the first in nearly 20 years. It could bring chaos to mobile phone networks, GPS satellites, and power grids. This uncommonly powerful solar storm is expected to hit around now, midday.
So if we're knocked off the air, that's why?
I mean, I like to think that the kind of good energy that this show is all about might be enough to beat back any kind of solar disruption.
No.
But the reality is that nature is nature. And this insanely unusual event, because of its power, could affect parts of the power grid and, again, GPS, navigation devices, etc. It's a massive sunspot, an area on the sun that is cooler than the surface. And these expulsions of matter and magnetic field-related stuff can affect us here on Earth. If you haven't been affected yet on the East Coast, you probably will not be affected. At least the apex of everything is supposed to be midday East Coast time. So we'll see. But nonetheless, I like to keep an eye on, celestial disturbances like that. So that's why I mention it.
Speaking of celestial disturbances, we're supposed to be able to see the northern lights all over the place, like even in places like Alabama today. Did you know that?
Even Alabama.
Even Alabama. Even that.
I didn't know that. Do you have more on that?
Yeah, I will. See that William says Northern Lights here? Absolutely. We're getting it.
I'm already getting blurry because of the celestial disturbance. If you're watching our YouTube channel, I've just gone blurry.
Look at that.
Yeah, I think I can
make it happen.
Well, let's see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, there it is. Yeah, go ahead.
It's correcting itself now. John says we might get to see the northern lights because of the solar storm. The Aurora Borealis could be seen in Alabama tonight. See, even John knows.
Well, is it just John you're going with, or do you have other?
Yeah, it's John. Yeah.
Oh, you're just going with what John said.
Totally.
So-
No, I've read a little bit about this.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure why they're spreading, but they're spreading into part of the northern part of the United States.
But well, Alabama's not the northern part of the United States.
Kim, how are you?
It seems like you don't know a lot about this, Kim. You broke into the show with this news, and you don't really know if I can just.
I blame you.
According to
I'm sorry.
CBS,
Yes.
Americans as far south as Alabama and Northern California
Okay.
could be treated to a
right.
show of northern lights this weekend because of a powerful geomagnetic storm, I can say that, headed toward Earth. If the weather conditions are right, people in several areas could look up and see Aurora Borealis.
The science is ridiculous.
Okay,
This is
well,
the same storm that you were just discussing that could cause disruptions to communication systems, the power
Sure.
grid, satellites,
Wow.
but it could also put this fantastic light display in the night sky.
Wow.
The gift from space weather is the aurora. This according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Weather Prediction Center.
Oh
So
my
there.
God.
It sounds impressive, I have to say.
You do
Very
not know
impressive.
what you are talking about.
No, she's not just talking off the top of her head, Dr. Fauci. That she's actually reading it off of a.
The aurora
Yes.
may be visible for much of the northern half of the U.S. So, there you go.
Wow, that's impressive. But again, Alabama's not the northern part of the U.S., so I don't
gonna
quite
be
understand
good.
that. So
I don't
that
know
still
either.
continues to be a little bit of a puzzle or a mystery. But thank you for that. That was the corroborative information that
That
I
you were
was
looking for?
looking for.
So, the National Weather Service in San Francisco,
Yeah.
they were a little less optimistic that we would see the aurora. They said, their quote is, probably not. I'll still look up in the night sky while walking the dog, though, just to see. Probably not, but I'll check it out.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
We
Aurora
almost
Borealis
get
is
one cool thing, and then all the experts say, "No, we're not
No.
going to get there.
You're not going to get it. Right. Yeah. Experts have been wrong before, so maybe they'll be wrong in this case. All right, let me get you into a few things. Albert, don't let me get so far behind. I'm close to it now. I may bump the Trump stuff. I may bump that to the second hour when I'm talking to Michael Shure. I had a lot of Trump stuff. I've got a law and disorder that I really want to get to. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'll just mention that this in sort of a generic sense, and you'll see what I mean in like about 12 seconds. And then we'll talk about it in greater detail with Michael Shure. Donald Trump hosted the fossil fuel industry essentially at Mar-a-Lago, this big thing where it's a fundraiser. He's looking for money, and it's reflective of the relationship that Donald Trump has with almost every issue. I would suggest literally every issue, and that is it's a transactional relationship.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Right, and usually the scratch comes in the form of money. Sometimes it comes in the form of power. Generally, it's money because Donald Trump is completely corrupt to his core. So the idea here is, guys, meaning you in the fossil fuel industry, you're the oil and gas business, and you're affected by various environmental regulations that are being imposed by this current administration, the Biden administration. I will roll those back. You can drill, baby, drill, frack, baby, frack, go for it. And all I'm asking in return is for $1 billion. He had these oil executives over, told them, don't worry about the climate agenda and climate policies associated with this administration, because I'll take care of you if you take care of me. It's a straight transactional relationship. It's the same relationship that the religious right has with Donald Trump. You know, put him in office so that we can get what we want, Supreme Court justices, a rollback of Roe, a Christian nation. But in the case of Trump, it's about money, because if he can get the money, then he's able to cure a lot of the issues that he sees himself having. Trump's response stunned several of the executives in the room that was filled with the wealthy and powerful. He said, "You should raise $1 billion, return me to the White House." And he vowed to immediately reverse dozens of President Biden's environmental rules and policies and stop new ones from being enacted.
So if the environment is important to you and women's rights are important to you, he's not your candidate. He's not going to work for you.
Giving $1 billion would be, quote, a deal, according to Trump, because of the taxation and regulation they would avoid, because once he came to power, he would also put into effect all sorts of new tax cuts. Trump's remarkably blunt and transactional, there they actually use the word, pitch, reveals how the former president is targeting the oil industry to finance his reelection bid. At the same time, he has turned to the industry to help shape his environmental agenda for a second term, including rollbacks of some of Biden's signature achievements on clean energy and electric vehicles. Basically, the former president is proposing a gentler form of the proposition, nice planet you have here, be a shame if anything happened to it. Meaning, give me the money and I will take care of you. Trump vowed at the dinner to immediately put a freeze and end the Biden administration's freeze on permits for new liquefied natural gas, the LNG exports. That's a top priority for executives. There's a lot of that liquid natural gas that comes out of this country. That's why we are hugely productive from the standpoint of energy production in this country. It's that LNG. Roughly 24 executives invited. Mike Sable, the CEO and founder of Venture Global, the CEO of Cheniere Energy. Their projects would directly benefit from lifting the pause on new LNG exports. Other attendees came from companies like Chevron, Continental Resources, Exxon, Occidental Petroleum. This is a promise. Donald Trump has always been for sale. I've told you he's always been for sale. I've detailed all the ways he's been for sale. Yep. I've detailed all the ways during his administration that people, organizations, companies put money in his pocket directly through his hotels, through his resorts, and they got favors as a result. They got legislation as a result. They got executive orders as a result. This is Donald Trump, to use the oft-used expression, saying the quiet part out loud. That's his deal with the fossil fuel industry.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, let's get into it, Albert. I want to take a break from Trump stuff. Again, I'll revisit it, double back to it when Michael Shure gets here. But I would, and I'll mention RFK Jr. and the story about the worm in his head and the worm in his brain. We'll get to that with Michael Shure. I would like to get to some law and disorder, Albert. Can I do that? I mean, am I permitted to do the show that I want to do?
No.
Your permission is granted, just warning that it's already 11:25. So
oh, my God.
Albert, thank you.
we want to keep that super on time.
How do we get so far behind?
I blame you.
All right. Well.
I blame the classic Mark Thompson time waster.
Oh, my God. That's just brutal. I'm drawn to those things that are important, those pieces of information that I want to impart to an audience that is dedicated enough to come here and to support us.
Yeah.
So that's my North Star, Kim. I'm not driven by the clock.
Okay. I understand.
All right. Albert, without any further delay, let's do it. Here's some law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
Well, there's nothing like a sham loan, everybody. Am I right? You love those sham loans? Yeah, where a CEO or other corporate officer gets a loan from the company and then has no intention of paying it back. then uses that money for their family and to support their big banging lifestyle. That is what happened in...
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
It works over and over. A federal grand jury indicting Andrew Wiederhorn, the former chief executive of the company that owns the Fatburger and Johnny Rockets restaurant chains. Federal charges.
What happened?
It was a $47 million sham loan scheme.
What?
Oh, no.
He is the current controlling shareholder of this publicly traded company. He's accused of concealing millions of dollars in reportable compensation and taxable income, of course, that's when the IRS gets interested, and evading payments of millions in taxes. The company money that he took was categorized as shareholder loans. It was dispersed to Wiederhorn and his family for, quote, their personal benefit. They spent some of that money on private jet travel, vacations, a $500,000 Rolls-Royce Phantom, plus other luxury automobiles, because when the Phantom is in use, you need other luxury automobiles to drive, if your wife has the Phantom. Also jewelry and a piano, one of those high-end pianos.
Sure.
Not a little electric piano, okay? According to the indictment, Wiederhorn had no intention of repaying these sham loans. Instead, he had every intention of spending the money and using it as his personal slush fund.
Didn't he make enough? What was his CEO pay per year?
Yeah, but why use that when you can use other money? You know? But he also, the wide variety of felony counts against this guy, wire fraud, obstruction of the IRS investigation, tax evasion, false statements. I mean, he was doctoring up books, or the company was, at his behest. And he did step down as CEO. He talked about the fact that he wanted to eliminate the distraction. This is after the indictment, or after the probe. He's just been indicted now. That's why I'm giving you the story. But you're right. I mean, here's a company that he didn't need to, you'd think, wouldn't need to siphon money off of.
No.
He had a net worth of about $140 million.
So here's a guy who has everything, and he still wants more.
Yeah. Corruption has to corrupt, I guess. Meantime, on the other side of law and disorder, FTX. This is amazing news. People who had money in FTX at the time of its collapse nearly 18 months ago got really lucky. I don't know if you saw this week, but, most bankruptcy proceedings, you get maybe 10 cents on the dollar, whatever it may be. You really usually take a massive haircut. But now they're saying that this fraudulent scheme that was FTX, the crypto exchange, that they're going to be made whole, all the different creditors. For the FTX customers, it looks like they'll get all their money back, all their original investment. The bad news in all of this, I mean, people like Tom Brady and the people who are representing FTX on commercials, they're not going to get any money. I mean, that likely won't happen. But the asset recovery associated with FTX to reimburse those who actually put their money in, that seems to have been successful. They say 98% of FTX creditors should receive 118% of the amount of their claims.
Wow.
They managed to track down all of FTX's crypto and other holdings and hired an investment manager to sell them. All of that took time, and while it was happening, crypto markets staged a stunning comeback, right? So while crypto is rising and they're tracking down all this crypto money, they sell it, and they've actually made enough money to take care of all those investments. So the value of FTX's crypto holdings was enough to pay back and will be enough to pay back customers. Now, last thing I'll say about this is, yeah, but if they had actually been legitimate and they had invested the crypto, it would have been a multiple of what they're going to get back. They'll get back their original investment, but it's like me saying to you, I'm going to give you back the original investment that you had when you invested in Apple in 1988. Yeah, but between 1988 and now, it's if that investment had been real in a real company, I'd never have to work again. So those who believed in crypto, they'll get their original investment back, but they're not going to get the huge crypto run-up that if the investment had been legitimate, they would have gotten. Still, it is a significant development. So, hey, Albert, did you see, I'm sorry, I meant to tell you this ahead of time. We're doing this a little differently. Kim suggested that we put the video and we embed it that I put it in the rundown. But did I also send you that thing on Barry Diller talking about Donald Trump's stock? You see the video there? Can you?
Yeah, I'm just loading it right now.
Okay, good. So I've mentioned this before, and I'll maybe round out Law and Disorder, at least close to rounding it out with this video. I've mentioned this before. I mentioned it to David K. Johnston the other day. Barry Diller on CNBC is asked. Now, Barry Diller is a giant mogul, media mogul, business mogul, brilliant businessman. He was asked about this Truth Social, the DJT stock. And here's what he said. Well,
Added
yes
it to
or
the
no?
stage. Yeah, I pressed play and I didn't. Let me rewind this a little bit.
Here it comes.
I got a question, not a political question about former President Trump, but actually a business question about Truth Social. You've seen this stock on the move in this, I'll call it remarkable, maybe even crazy way.
Just say two words, GameStop.
GameStop. That's what you think is going on here.
It's ridiculous.
The
company has no revenue.
But do you think it could ever be a bigger business? Do you think if he wins the presidency, it becomes
Why?
I'm asking.
Why would it be bigger? Look, he's only interesting now because he's out there entertaining the folks. I hope if he does get elected, he just plays golf for 4 years. But
so do you think that all of the investors in this are getting scammed? Do you think they think this is a transference of wealth from one side to the other, and that's the goal? What do you think is happening?
I think they're dopes. I mean, who would buy a company that literally has, I think, what does it have? $30 of revenue? Why would you how could you put a value on it? They're buying it for other reasons, just like they bought theaters when there was no theater business, or they bought GameStop or whatever. It's stupid. It's stupid stuff.
It was 1,000 times revenue, I think. I think it was wasn't it $4 million? It was
$4 million in revenue. That's $4 million in revenue. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it's not
$4 million. Why are you even talking about this? It's a scam, just like everything he's ever been involved in is some sort of con.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to. He is a brilliant businessman, and I will give Barry Diller credit in that moment. Wow. I mean, he used the word scam.
Yeah.
So that as well. And before I get to Kim's news, I do want to acknowledge in Law and Disorder the resignation of Miss USA. I mean, to me, it was a big deal.
What?
I think Kim, to be fair, did you report on it? I thought you did touch on it.
Yeah.
But her resignation letter accuses the Miss USA organization of a toxic work culture, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, she says there is a toxic work environment within the Miss USA organization that at best is poor management and at worst is bullying and harassment.
Yeah.
Noela Voigt wrote, this started soon after winning the title of Miss USA 2023. She relinquished her crown this week, citing her mental health. 2 days later, Miss Teen USA, Uma Sofia Srivastava, 17, announced that she was also stepping down.
There they are, both of them.
She said that her personal values no longer fully align with the direction of the organization. I'm disgusted by it as well. And let me tell you something. If I were a teen and I won Teen Miss USA, I would step down. That's how outraged I am. Guys, these beauty contests, it doesn't shock me in the least that they are emotionally manipulated, that there is always the specter of predatory behavior, and also the expectations, frankly, just the expectations, even if everything is run in a way that it's kosher, the expectations on these young people, completely unreasonable. So I'm not surprised, I guess is what I would say. And Miss Hawaii, for those who, keep the cork board updated with the latest Miss USA, she is taking over after this resignation. Savannah Gankowitz named Miss USA. And that, my friends, is Law and Disorder.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
We're on Donald Trump and Steve Bannon and their relationships with the courthouse.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yes, please do smash it with your iron rod. Thumbs up costs you nothing, and it helps us in the algorithm of YouTube. Speaking of costs, a lot of the content that you see, the shorts that you see, we have to pay to have them produced. We want to try to get the footprint of the show out there in all the different ways. So I really appreciate the ways that you share the show. You'll share a video, you'll see something, you'll share a short, whatever you may think, or you'll share the live show, whatever, the replay of the live show. It does help us. So if you share it to your social media page, your Facebook page, wherever you do your social mediaing, that helps us, and I appreciate that. And of course, the many who step up and give us super stickers and super chats and after the fact donations, meaning in the replay, you put that into the comments. That matters too. In fact, in that spirit, let me give a big shout out to, in the last couple of weeks, Kevin Hobbs gave us a
Big
20.
shout out.
Deanna Robertson, or Roberson, sorry, Deanna. She gave us a $15 donation. This is after our commenting. And a $2 donation from Deanna.
Big shout
out. Candace, I mentioned, with a $10 contribution in after hours contributions there on YouTube. And Brad Floyd. Thank you,
Big
Candace,
shout out.
again. And Brad Floyd with a couple of bucks coming with super thanks from Brad Floyd, he says.
Big shout out.
Nice.
Also, Steve Greenelk, a $5 super thanks from Steven. Steven, big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for all the ways you support the show. As I say, our costs extend beyond just the personnel. The running of the show costs as well, and we appreciate you helping to keep us on the air. All right. Without any further delay, Kim's News and Florida. What's up, Albert? Something?
No, just kind of a turbo news, Kim, for this one, so we could stay
Roughly
loosely
on time?
Yes.
Okay.
Expanded news, though. Can you promise, Kim, expanded news at the bottom of the next hour, Albert?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that would be nice. Big shout out, though, quickly. Sorry to delay you, Kim. But Pamela Stevens, how about a 20?
Big shout out.
It's a Friday 20. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I love that. Yeah. Brings out the little girl in me.
Thank you so much.
I love her, that girl. Yeah.
Me too. All right, Kim's News in Florida next. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Former President Trump's hush money trial finished for the day, and the prosecution could apparently rest their case by the end of next week. Prosecutors told the judge they plan to call only 2 more witnesses. One of those witnesses is former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, who is the centerpiece to the case. Everyone's waiting to see what he's got to say. Israeli tanks have reportedly captured the main road through the Palestinian city of Rafah today. This move leaves the eastern half of the Gaza Strip city encircled by Israeli forces. Residents there have reported explosions, gunfire, and heavy fighting between Israeli forces and militants with Hamas and the Islamic Jihad. You can see here people trying to get out. Ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas ended with no agreement on Thursday, so the fighting continues there. And because we love to do Alabama news, I'll give you some Alabama news.
Yeah, Alabama's getting a lot
big
more
today.
airtime than normal.
Big on the show. The Deep South getting slammed by heavy winds that are knocking out power for thousands of people. Forecasters say a squall line is triggering severe weather warnings across parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. The wind gusts of more than 60 miles per hour are being reported in southern Alabama this morning as well. Significant wind damage is being reported in Mississippi. So that's happening. The encampments from at least 3 university campuses are being cleared as pro-Palestinian demonstrations continue. Schools don't want the encampment set up. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, law enforcement tore down tents on Friday. At the University of Arizona, police used chemical munitions to clear the encampment. Meanwhile, University of Pennsylvania authorities arrested about 33 without incident, they say, for defiant trespass.
It's absolutely outrageous. You have to clear these areas. You have to make them safe. This is out of control. I've said it over and over. And if you read the accounts of those who are simply trying to go to school or even working at some of these schools, I mean, the latest that I was reading was from maintenance workers who were inside Columbia's Hamilton Hall as the cops were trying to get a control of things outside, and the infiltrators, whatever you want to call them, protesters, they came and rushed the building, and essentially they were being held hostage. These people who were maintenance workers. And actually, the story is more intriguing than that. They were actually able to push back many of those protesters. And the protesters said, "Are you?" They asked them, "Are you for Hamas or are you for Israel?" They were trying to get some kind of literal sense of loyalty, and declaration of loyalty from maintenance workers. These are people who are cleaning the building. And they finally actually were able to push them back. And by the way, just in answer to the question, because they asked them, again, are you on their side or are you on our side? The maintenance worker said, "Hey, we're not on anybody's side. Get out of here. We're trying to clean this building. We're not going to let you trash it." So this is way out of control. I'm telling you, I just feel as though protesters have lost their way when it comes to civil disobedience in this country right now, on these college campuses at very least. It's a face only a mother can love. Yeah, Kim is muted, but yeah. Well, maybe.
Sorry, here we are. Yeah. As mentioned earlier, Steve Bannon, his federal appeals court is upholding a criminal contempt of Congress conviction for this former Trump White House aide, Steve Bannon. Bannon was convicted for refusing to testify and provide documents to the House committee that investigated the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The appeals court rejecting Bannon's argument that he was not guilty because his attorney advised him not to comply with a subpoena from the committee. Can't blame your lawyer. It's all about
the attorney.
You.
Yeah. Right.
Jill Biden headed to Los Angeles, scheduled to spend about 3 hours in L.A. today. She'll be attending a fundraiser for President Biden's re-election campaign. The location of that fundraiser has not yet been announced. Very secretive.
No.
The First Lady is expected to arrive at Hollywood Burbank Airport this afternoon. So if you see the motorcade, that's what that is all about.
That'll be really good for traffic. And
isn't that great? Yeah. The Oakland Airport has a new name. Not everybody happy about this one. The Oakland Board of Port Commissioners voted unanimously to rename the facility the San Francisco Bay Oakland International Airport.
Oh.
Board members say the name change mostly comes down to location, saying many people outside California had no idea where Oakland is. I Google it. The name change isn't sitting well with everyone. The city of San Francisco has filed a lawsuit over this, saying the airport's new name infringes on San Francisco International Airport's trademark. So the fight is underway, but Oakland Board of Port Commissioners are holding strong. They're sticking to it.
Yeah, they're rebranding.
Yeah.
They picked that name because Hagenberger Airport was taken.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nobody wanted Hagenberger. That wasn't the bottom of the list. No.
Now, Hagenberger is named after somebody, right?
I don't know who it is, though. I'll have to look it up.
Albert, could you check on that? Because
Google
I've got to think the Hagenberger family is not happy with what's happening on Hagenberger.
I will check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have so many stories, but we have to get to Florida. So let me tell you this one. 2 San Jose parents are being called drug kingpins by local law enforcement. Santa Clara County DA says Octavian Moreno and Crystal Delgado are now facing numerous drug and child endangerment charges. Prosecutors say the pair stashed a backpack full of 55,000 fentanyl pills right under their baby's crib.
Oh, my God.
Right. Investigators also found 13 pounds of marijuana, 1.5 pounds of cocaine, and a loaded firearm in their home. The couple's 1-year-old baby was found playing near bags of marijuana, while prosecutors say the child's formula sat right next to bags of cocaine. I'm telling you. Man.
I mean, it's an odd Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to you.
Let's not start early. Right.
A quick Hagenberger is named after Albert Francis Hagenberger, who was a major general in the United States Air Force.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Well, so it must have been, Blue Spark says Hagenberger's the god of felony.
Yeah.
So when was that, Albert? When was he active? Or...
World War I was when he was active.
Oh, wow. Mr. Hagenberger.
Well, I'm sure that he had some great decades when he was proud. But thankfully, he's no longer with us to see the descent that Hagenberger Road has taken.
No, he wouldn't want it named after him anymore. Lastly, and very quickly, a New York woman is suing Cold Stone Creamery over its pistachio ice cream. She says instead of nuts, the dessert has pistachio flavoring. And her lawyers wrote she would not have purchased it if she knew it didn't have actual pistachios.
No.
So a federal
What
judge
the
in
hell
Brooklyn...
is going on in the United States of America?
Yeah, Ron gets it. Why God? Why can't? I mean, can we not count on anything anymore?
A federal judge says this class action suit, the class action status, can move forward.
Wow.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
Thank you. Exactly.
Speaking of Mother's Day, they've got a great thing going on at Tenuta Vineyards. You can still book a table. Call them up. Winery at the Mother's Day at the winery, May 12th. Call Rich to reserve your table. You can order custom labels with a picture of you and your mom on the wine. You can pick any wine to put the labels. They've got 29 wine choices, 17 reds, 12 whites, including the, hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio? Perfect for Mother's Day. Or the Why Are You Yelling red blend. And also, you get 10% off.
Yelling?
Just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener. You say smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah. That's
Smashed it with your iron
10%
rod.
off is not nothing, especially if you're getting like a case of whatever you do. Get a case, you get a thing, they'll give you 10% off.
If you buy a case, you get 20% off.
Oh, my God. Well, that's a... all right.
Call Rich at the winery, 925-699-4576.
I stand corrected.
Okay.
You can email him, Rich at Tenuta Vineyard, Tenuta, and have a great Mother's Day out at Tenuta. I'm Kim McAllister. It's The Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Who's Mark Thompson?
The Mark Thompson Show.
It is our Friday show. Shout out to all of our Patreon and PayPal subscribers. Monday, I will have the update on our June Swoon. The June Swoon is our June meetup. I'm mentioning this because I saw it in the chat, and I promise you I will update it on Monday with complete details and sign-up story. And Tom tells me that Hagenberger, who is the guy, I guess, who they named Hagenberger Road after, died in 1983. So he rounds out Albert's information with that additional information.
Quickly, my favorite part of Hagenberger, there's an actual Hagenberger, like Hagen Burger Place. Yeah. When you're driving down there.
Yeah. That is.
Well, they
pretty
need
cool.
it now that In-N-Out's gone, so,
Yeah, that's right. You need someplace to eat there. Keep the engine running is what I would say. Make sure somebody's in the car. I don't know.
Right.
Do something. Well, maybe just drive up. It's tricky. For those who don't know, in the Bay Area, this road has become, and it's a road that essentially you need to access the Oakland airport. It has become beset by all kinds of criminal activity. They've actually called in, the governor has, they've called in CHP, additional California Highway Patrol officers to patrol it because it's been that bad. All right, speaking of bad, lawlessness, and fun, this is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
A drugged-out Florida man is arrested. That doesn't even move the meter typically on Friday Fabulous Florida, but he's arrested after biting off a piece of a cop's head.
What?
At a music festival.
What?
It did happen. A drugged-out Florida guy busted after attacking a sheriff's deputy at a local music festival, biting a chunk out of the top of the cop's head.
Was he on the bath salts or what?
James Anderson is a volunteer at the Vortex Spring Soul Fest, was charged with resisting arrest and aggravated battery of a law enforcement officer. There he is.
Oh, man.
And I want to say, and we'll show you in a moment, the damage done, because he really did take a hunk out of the guy's skull, and I know I will be demonetized, but I feel duty-bound to show you the damage. But anyway, before I get to that, there's the festival. Yeah. And on the Mark Thompson Show booking photo meter, I'll need a number, and I think he looks quite friendly.
Yeah.
And I think he looks like the kind of guy who's like, I came over for Mother's Day.
That picture could have been taken at a backyard barbecue.
Yeah, what do you give him, Kim?
Knowing his crime kind of derails me a little bit. I'm going to say a 6.5.
Well, you're just supposed to evaluate. Albert, doesn't she know how it works?
You just don't get
I'm
it.
still reeling for them.
It's about the photo, Kim, not what he did.
I'm trying to go with it, but I
Right,
can't look at him the same
I'm giving him
anymore.
a 7, and I'm moving on. All right, 7. Anyway, he was charged with all that stuff, aggravated battery, resisting arrest, and all the rest. What do you think, Albert? We shouldn't show the actual...
I'll flash it real quick.
Okay.
Just for the
It's
they
pretty
even
grisly, man. It's
yeah.
pretty grisly, yeah. And
man,
that is his injury. So that was a real hunk of the guy's skull. It was not an exaggeration.
Horrible. And he bit it?
Yeah, he bit
Ew.
right in. You can't have the good without the bad, said the sheriff's office. And I guess the bad was on display there. A Florida man with face tattoos arrested after smashing. Yeah, face tattoos can be fine. No problem with them. He smashed the victim's aquarium and then took the fish and flushed him down the toilet.
Why?
Yeah. This is in Cape Coral. Cops were called to this home in Southwest Florida. This is Brett Dahl on the Mark Thompson Show booking photo meter. I'm going to give him a 4.
Yeah.
You can tell me if you disagree, Kim. You're allowed to.
No, I'm going to go 3.
Oh, no, I think this is strong. This is exactly what you want your booking photos to look like.
What would you say?
A true Florida. A true Florida. Yeah.
You would. How high would you rate them?
It'd probably be like an 8. Like an 8.
Wow. Albert is on a
8.
different scale. Okay.
Yeah.
According to investigators, Dahl smashed the victim's fish tank and flushed the fish down the toilet. He was arrested, charged with battery, grand theft, criminal mischief, tampering with a victim, and animal cruelty. While in jail, investigators connected him to another incident. He is aggressive, he is trouble, and he has a trail of violence that he leaves behind him. And as you know, I think if you mess with the fish, and if you mess with a creature, a living, sweet, innocent creature, lock him up and throw away the key. Am I right?
Why are you yelling?
Naked Florida woman, Kim. It's not just men in Florida who misbehave.
Woo-hoo! Happy
She's
Mother's
24
Day.
years old.
Yeah.
She's arrested after breaking into a neighbor's house. The incident happened just before midnight at Lake City, the house there on Huntsboro Street. Officers responding to the home after the victim dialed 911 to report a burglary in progress, and there she is.
Oh.
The booking photo of Haley Blunt. On the booking photo meter, I think it's tough on this one. I might give her an 8.
I think it's pretty good. I'm going to go 7.
She looks pretty cute to me.
Mm-hmm.
She's the kind of perpetrator that I'd buy a drink for. That's all I'm saying. Is that, hey, when you get out, if you want to grab a bite, let me know.
I do think she has crazy eyes.
She is nuts. The victim told cops that they heard someone knocking on the front door, but when they asked who was there, no one would answer. The person, later identified here as Blunt, went to the home's sliding glass door and again began to knock, but wouldn't say who it was when she was asked. The homeowner reportedly on the phone with 911 when Blunt broke a window of the residence and went inside. That's when the victim left the home and met with the arriving officers in the yard. Cops approaching the front door, they found Blunt nude and bleeding from the injury she sustained from breaking the window. She was taken to a local hospital for treatment, later booked into Columbia County Jail.
I couldn't let Chris Holtgren's comment go by. He says, I can change her. So
I think
we gave you the details of where she's at right now, Chris. So do your thing.
Yeah, go for it. I think she's one of the good ones.
God bless America.
Right. I think
the end.
You better be ready for a few of those speeches because I think she's going to be.
No, no, no.
A wanted Florida man crawls into a home through floorboards during a getaway from cops.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
He's 19 years old, Gage Dennis. He was wanted by the cops for some serious stuff, and he was running from the cops quite seriously. Apparently, Gage Dennis, 19 years old, drove a car purposely at 4 people, hitting one of them.
This looks fake. This article photo, this looks like it's doctored. It's photoshopped, but I think
it does
this
have
is
a
what was
Photoshop
included.
quality. Another man, Andrew Laporte, who was 19, jumped on top of the guy, Gage Dennis, also 19, and beat him. I'm sorry, excuse me. Dennis hit him with the car, then this other guy jumped on him and started beating him up. That's what happened.
Right.
So it wasn't an altercation between these two, excuse me. Dennis tried to hide from the arriving deputies by crawling under a house. He then removed some floorboards from the home and went inside the house. Deputies did catch him there.
Was he naked?
Sorry to disappoint you. He was not naked.
Commentator says naked is best for home invasion. So there's that.
Both Dennis and Laporte were arrested, though the victim suffered only minor injuries, according to the sheriff's office, which is amazing. But attempted murder is one of the things, when you try to run somebody over with a car, that's one of the things you're going to be hit with. I'll quickly, because I do like to respect the rules of the show, I will say I think their booking photos around a 6 is what I would give them for both of them. A Florida man bitten by 2 sharks survives to tell the story. Marlon Wakeman can barely bend his knees. He's on crutches after 2 sharks bit him, one on his shoulder and one on his leg where the teeth dug into his kneecap.
Ow.
If I was in the water for another 2 seconds, he said, there definitely was another shark right there that probably would have grabbed me, and who knows what would have happened after that.
They're working together like one of those creepy shark movies.
Well, once they get that scent of blood in the water, Kim.
That's it.
Marlon was on Long Island in the Bahamas when he fell into the water while trying to get in a boat. He says the area is known as a shark's den. When I ended up in the water, I pretty much knew I was going to face something like this. Adrenaline kicked in after the first bite. He was dragged underwater, but luckily the shark let go. Another one bit him on his shoulder. He was pulling himself back on the boat.
Ooh.
He says, I didn't feel the sharpness at all. The captain of the boat texted Marlon's father, who knew a doctor at St. Mary's Hospital in West Palm Beach, Florida, and the 24-year-old was flown to the hospital the next day. And he survives to tell the story. Meantime, a popular alligator will be removed from a Florida park because of food conditioning. Humans breaking the law on feeding the gators is to blame here. The gator's been spotted with half a loaf of bread in its mouth. I mean, it's clearly then human beings that are feeding the gator, and so it ruins the natural fear of human beings that gators have. Once they see you as a food source, it gets dangerous for the person behind you. And this 5-foot gator specifically became so accustomed to people feeding it, including kids, that it started getting too close to them. Quote, the gator he came right into the dock. And as I moved, he moved with me. Oh. And so that tells me that he was acclimated. Yeah. Acclimated is a dang word. That's from the County Assistant Director of General Services. As a result, for public safety reasons, the county contacted the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. We call it the FWC. And they have the gator trapped, and they are moving the gator.
To a place where there's no little kids on the dock? Yeah.
I guess that is the idea. Let's hope that they move the gator to some place without people and where he can be happy.
Hem Oak says, who doesn't like KFC? Come on.
Exactly. They're feeding him.
We got it.
Yeah. And finally, a Florida man is arrested for carving his name into a deputy's patrol car. That is a cojones move.
Leaving your signature behind. It's a great way not to
face arrest. He was taken to jail after he intentionally carved his name into a Broward Sheriff's Office marked patrol car last week.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Yeah.
Come on.
Enderlin Leonce. Great name, but not a great plan.
Not the best and brightest.
33 years old. He's from Margate. He was arrested and booked into the Broward County Jail on criminal mischief.
What he's got going here is a situation.
A witness reported seeing him vandalizing the patrol car before taking off.
It looks like one of those Olin Mills pictures where you're looking off into the distance.
This is a great booking photo for a guy who seems to have stepped off the curb in terms of kind of how to behave. But on the Mark Thompson Show booking photo meter, I'm going to give him an 8.
Yeah, I agree. I concur.
Very, very strong. And concur is a ding word. When an officer arrived at the scene, they noticed that the suspect had used a metal tool to etch the name Enderlin Leonce into the vehicle.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Well, someone's used a metal tool to etch their name in, Larry, on the driver's side hood of the patrol vehicle. The officer completed a teletype check of the name and noticed that he lived at a residence which was in the area. The officer met with Leonce at his home, and that's when Leonce allegedly made multiple statements, including, I did it, I committed a crime, and I should be going to jail.
Oh.
He was also found carrying metal joint pliers with green paint transfer on the tip of the tool. Leonce reportedly told the officer, I was revolting because they wouldn't take me back to Haiti.
Huh. Okay.
Well, anyway, I guess he got what he wanted on some level, and he is in police custody.
Good day, sir.
He's outie.
He's a great candidate for the next Mar-a-Lago head of security. Very, very well. Yeah. You won't take any crap from anybody. We need to pick a favorite. What is the vote? What are the choices in the chat, Albert, while I review some of these?
I just added it in there. I combined chunk of head, the guy who bit off the chunk of head, and the carved name because he did that. Both of them did that to police officers. So
yeah.
And then I have face tats, conditioned gator, and nude break-in. Because Chris Holtgren will save that woman.
I am directing you, if you're watching live, to weigh in on your favorite. We're repulsed by all of this lawlessness, but we must choose a favorite. The bylaws of the show require it. I will remind you of the stories that you heard while Kim and Albert put up some of the favorites being declared in the chat now. And I'll also remind you that if you're watching in delay, please indicate your favorite in delay, even though you're watching it after the fact. We do go back and check. It helps inform future decisions we made about the stories we do. The drugged-out Florida man arrested after biting off a piece of the cop's head at the music festival. The Florida man with the face tattoos arrested after smashing the victim's aquarium, flushing the fish down the toilet. The naked Florida woman, 24 years old, arrested after breaking into the neighbor's home. The wanted Florida man who crawls into the home through floorboards during the getaway. A Florida man bitten by 2 sharks survives to tell the story. And the popular alligator removed from Florida Park because of food conditioning. Finally, the Florida man arrested for carving his name into a deputy's patrol car. Again, we don't want to pick a favorite, but we must. I'll start with you, Kim.
I have to. There's so many very Florida-ish stories this time.
Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
It's true.
But I have to go with chunk of head guy. I mean, who does that?
Yeah, chunk of head guy is true mayhem, isn't it?
It had to have been bath salts or something. That's so Florida. Yeah. Chunk of head guy.
Kim likes chunk of head guy. Albert, where do you lean toward, please?
Albert, thank you.
I kind of somewhat agree because the photos that it's gruesome and it really adds to it. But I like the guy. He's just straight. He knew what he was doing and he did it anyways. And he reported himself. Yeah. He literally wrote his name on a cop's vehicle. So it goes to the guy who carved his name. That
is my favorite too. The guy who was arrested for carving his name into a deputy's patrol car. Initials
like
on
somebody
cop car.
who does the graffiti art, and his tag name is literally his first and last name. And might as well just type out his social security up there. But very cool.
Yeah.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
Yeah, you don't. If you put your name in the scroll, they will come arrest you. So that's Friday Fabulous Florida for today.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Do we have the brilliant Michael Shure yet?
He is standing by. And it looks like he agreed with my vote. So that's great.
Wow.
Yeah. And his Rangers are 3-0.
I always
his
feel
Rangers doing well this playoffs.
Well, that's what I promised him, that you guys could talk a little bit of. So we'll bring him on here.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I love my Fridays. I get to talk to somebody who has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He's the great Michael Shure, everyone. Hi, Michael.
I don't know that I want to be
You're going to unmute yourself or something. Why can I not hear Michael?
I don't know. I'm not muted.
Michael, you've got to unmute.
I'm not muted.
No? Yeah. Oh, you're not muted. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Then I blame you. Who do I blame? Albert. I blame you.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Michael,
I don't want to be part of a show, Mark, where concur is a ding word. It's not a ding word.
What? I think concur is a ding word.
It's a smaller show than that. I mean, concur is. I agree. Concur.
No, but you just said the reason I say ding word is because you could just say I agree, but instead concur is used, which is who uses concur in regular sentences.
I think
conversation.
We'll have this conversation at another time.
Thank you.
I think it was an unfair ding to Kim. That's all.
All right. Well, I stand by the ding. I think it was a sound one.
Yeah,
Now,
I thought Michael Shure was on my side, and now he wants to take away my ding.
I know. Well, I mean, that's the great thing about Michael. He calls him as he sees him.
But I don't think a ding is
it is a good thing, Michael. You don't get it. You don't get it. You just don't.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
You don't. You don't, Michael. You get it. It's weird because a guy who gets so much that we don't get doesn't get the ding, which he should. It should be a layup for you to get it.
It's weird. I concur.
Now, let me ask you about what's going on first in the world of Trump and his cronies, his lackeys, his enablers, specifically Steve Bannon. It was the news of the day that Steve Bannon has lost his appeal. This is on, essentially all these guys, Bannon and Navarro, they all flipped the bird to Congress when they were served with subpoenas.
Yeah.
Now they are, Navarro's actually serving time. Bannon, I think, has a couple of other appeals still to come if the appellate court will hear it. How does this affect the sort of the body politic of their world? I'm not talking about the votes of the electorate.
I don't think it affects their world very much. I think that the people in their world think that they did the right thing, and they're not going to sort of react well and say the Court of Appeals held it up. I guess this is not really a good man, and I guess he should have testified to Congress. They will still think it's an unjust, prosecution, an unjust conviction, and an unjust look at it by the Court of Appeals. So I don't think it changes any meters. But what it does do is it means that Steve Bannon's going to go to jail. He's been out on appeal, and he has a 4-month sentence. And I'd expect that they're going to make him start serving that pretty quickly.
I also remember Steve Bannon having that scam in which he suggested, if you want to build the wall, send your money to us. He made an infomercial. They did a live show, and 100% of the money will go to building the wall. Of course, 100% of the money went to Steve Bannon and the other guy. None of the money went to building a wall, and he was convicted, but then pardoned by Trump for that. So you always wonder if there's some kind of way the system can be gamed on the part of Steve Bannon to slither away.
Well, I mean, that's the only way he would get away is by slithering. I think there's no question now that they seem to be out of legal options. And I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's the end of the road, and they're going to have to sell a lot more pieces of the wall in order to keep this legal process going. I think that's another concern for Bannon as well. I think that they're going to probably make him serve it, and perhaps he'll be able to get out on time, with some time served, get out a little bit early from his 4-month sentence. That I don't know, but I don't think, these are interesting stories, but they're sidebar stories, especially when you have a president on trial and it's the middle of an election year, and then you have so many other things happening politically, and the Republican Party trying to figure out how to deal with MAGA or not MAGA, both in Senate and House primaries, and even in Congress, where you had someone try and vacate the speaker. And she's a big part of MAGA world, Congresswoman Green. But they took her to task, and she was a big.
But she really was. She was dragged down. I mean, that she never really caught oxygen on that, did she?
No, she didn't at all. There was no. You don't take something to the floor if you think you're going to get drubbed in such a way by your own colleagues as well. And I think that's what they saw happen. And then the aftermath is all these Republicans, emboldened by the fact that it was such a big defeat for Green, that they went out and started just saying worse things about her. I mean, it was just not a good day for her. And I would imagine that once either Trump wins or loses next time, that Green is going to be a target of some sort of real old school Republican in Georgia.
Well, she's definitely feeling as though she's coming close to her expiration date. I do want to ask about these other Republicans you talk about, because this is quite significant. This isn't related to the Trump court case, and this is really about a bizarre and shameless sort of media tour that these various high-profile GOP politicians are on. I mean, the Tim Scotts of the world, perfect example. J.D. Vance would be another example. Refusing to accept the election results for 2024, or refusing to state that we'll accept the election results. I mean, they're stonewalling it. They're essentially saying, I mean, the implication, if we win, we'll accept it, and if we don't, yeah.
And that's something I've asked of Trump supporters out in the field, and I get similar answers. Of course, it's a sampling that's larger than two people, so some people will say, yeah, we'll accept it and we'll move on, as long as it was legitimate and not like 2020. So there's still this kicking and screaming over 2020. They were fine with 2016, but 2020 was where the issues were. And the other part of it is, you know, Tim Scott, a sitting U.S. senator who ran for president, looking back and saying that he can't say that 2020 was a legitimate election. This is also the audition period, so it's not really a typical time in politics, and it happens just 6 months before any election, before a running mate is picked, and before it's clear what the policies and the cabinet would look like for someone running for president, where people are trying to kiss up to Donald Trump. And perhaps Tim Scott and J.D. Vance are doing the same thing. I mean, J.D. Vance came around to being a Republican, won a seat in Ohio for the Senate against a popular member of Congress. So I think that there are ways to look at this and say that these people are just doing this as part of that sort of mating call to be on the ticket or to be in the cabinet. But I don't know that that's accurate. And, I also don't know that it's good for the party. And some Republicans think that they just need to stop talking in that way.
In that spirit, I'm just wondering with the Tim Scotts and J.D. Vances of the world, as you say, and you correctly suggest, it's the audition period. They also aren't willing to commit to the idea that you would pardon many of those Capitol rioters, which is something that Donald Trump has been unapologetic about.
Yeah, I think that goes to sort of feeling it out if they're not selected and if they have to remain there and they're in the Senate and they have to see these Capitol police officers. These people play chess and they think 3 or 4 moves ahead. But not all of them, and not with every utterance they make, but they're very, very careful people. And there are reasons why that is something that they're not going to embrace. That doesn't impress Donald Trump necessarily. They don't need his support either to pardon anybody. It's not like it has to clear a Senate committee or a vote on the floor of the Senate. So senators are free to do that, even if they're trying to kiss up to Donald Trump. On policy and on the election especially, which is something that is very near and dear to Trump, they're gonna walk that line if they want to be part of a future potential Trump administration.
That administration, that future Trump administration, seems to be informed by those things that Trump is, again, unapologetic about. The most recent is the deal he wants to make with fossil fuel companies. Give me the $1 billion and I'll take care of you. I'll roll back all the environmental regulations that have been put into effect by Joe Biden. You can not worry about all the leases that you want for drilling, for fracking, and for extraction. I wonder if you can speak to that politically. Does that move the meter in this country? Do people see the sort of I'll just say it's kind of this. I understand that all politicians have to take care of their constituency, Michael, but I mean, here it just seems extraordinary.
I think here's what I think. I don't know that a voter hears that and says, oh, I don't care about that, or if it moves a voter. But he gives Donald Trump on the stump the ability to say that he somehow can control the price of gas, which he can't. But because he is working hand in hand with these gas companies, petroleum companies, he's able to articulate that in small and big audiences to say, look, the gas prices are too high. I've already told the fossil fuel industry, I will work with them. And if they are free to drill in other places and a lot of these environmental restrictions are rolled back, then okay, they'll be able to lower gas prices. It doesn't work like that. He knows it doesn't, but Americans don't, by and large, know that the president has very little to do with gas prices. If gas prices were to go down $2 tomorrow, it will not be because Joe Biden lowered the gas prices or did very many things to impact that. Conversely, if it went up $2, it would be blamed on the president, but that's not where you pin blame. This is also saying the quiet part out loud. Presidents for a very long time, in whatever industry they're in, have said, look, elect me and we'll work with you guys, right? And we'll figure this out. They don't do it with such a blatant quid pro quo that Trump has done recently. But I think that the reason he's done it in such a loud way is to get voters to understand that he's on their side when it comes to the price of gas.
It's also remarkable, as I think back on the Trump administration, how they dry clean government websites of any reference to climate change. There is an aggressive, and you'll remember they subsidized coal mining operations. They penalized solar companies. I mean, it was quite extraordinary. The thumb they put on the scale of energy consumption here in this country.
Right. But that's, I'm not as, I don't know, none of that surprises me. That's sort of the back and forth. Who do Republicans appeal to right now? Energy, right? Insurance, other places. So the petroleum industry, the coal industry, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, or parts of Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, these are really areas in the country that are pretty red, and these are still popular things in those areas, in those districts. So it's not surprising then that a Republican presidential candidate would try and do favors for those industries, as the Republican Party has done. I mean, you look at the Texas delegation in Congress. I don't know. I mean, I can think of just a couple of Democrats in Texas right now. And you look at California, I can think of just a couple of Republicans. So you see sort of how the politics play locally and how that translates nationally. And the party, for better or worse, the Republican Party is aligned now with that sector, and it's helped them out, for better for them.
It's so crazy, though, because, and again, this will never bubble up to the surface, but the reality is, and this is very much like Obama. Obama had sort of an all-you-can-eat policy toward energy. It was clean energy, it was dirty energy, it was fossil fueled, it was solar, et cetera. Yeah. And Biden has a similar dance going on, even though he has this label as an environmental president, and I am okay with that because he is making strides in ways that we've not seen before. Right. But we've never produced as much fuel as old school fossil fuel energy as we have in this country right now under Joe Biden.
No, that's true. And that's 100% true. And that's something that is not talked about. It is not, people are always surprised when they hear it, but it's absolutely true. There's more fuel coming out of the ground in the United States than ever at any time in our history. So, and that's on the president to get people to know that. That's on his campaign to let people know that. Whether or not that will impact them, they'll say, well, the prices are still high. He closed the pipelines. If he opened the pipelines up, the price of gas would go down. And I don't care how much is coming out of the ground. We could have so much more and it could be so much cheaper.
Well, for those who just are, to round out that point, curious at all, refineries in this country do control a supply in a big way, and you can really play fast and loose with maintenance and the opening and closing and the regulation of flow through those refineries, and that is where a lot of manipulation goes on. I want to ask you about the young vote in this country and how much it's really affected by the situation in the Middle East. I understand that the headlines and a lot of very high-profile actions are related to Middle East politics. But how much is the young vote really affected by this? It seems to me like not being able to buy a house or, various economic realities when it comes to making ends meet. These are things that might affect young people in a way to have their decision-making really go one way or the other, more than the situation in the Middle East.
Yeah, well, you have to sector out what young voters are. Young voters in college are not thinking necessarily about buying a house, most of them. It's a time of thinking about yourself, about what your future is, where you want to live, what you want to do. Buying a house isn't the first thing. Maybe how I'm going to deal with my student loans, and those young voters could say, well, there's one person who's trying to lower and eradicate student loan debt, and there's one person who is not, and one party that's not. So they could look at it that way. If you look at it though through the prism of what's going on in the world right now, I think that these campus protests mean that there are a lot of people that are irate over the way this is happening right now in the Middle East. And those are young people. Those are angry people. Those might be because they're the ones that will get in a tent. I would say they're likely to be the kind that go to a voting booth too. So you've got this activist set of a very low turnout cohort of Americans that go out and will certainly vote, but they're not the only voters. And one thing to also remember is school's out pretty soon, right? All these colleges are going to be closed. The Middle East may look very different when they come back to school in August and September, and the passions of the activism may have waned by then too. And I'm not saying that they're not just as passionate in September as they are in May, but I do think that what you're going to see the Middle East change to some degree, whether for the better or the worse. And I think that that's going to impact sort of the sustained effort on the part of these students and faculty at these universities around the country. And maybe there'll be a reckoning over the summer about how they're messaging those things. But young voters are not, you just don't want to lose the ones that you have, right? They're not the ones, I say this all the time. If you think you're going to win because of young voters or lose because of young voters, then something's wrong with your campaign, because that's not a program. Do policies that will maybe bring them out, but don't rely on them.
Did the Biden administration chicken out, if you'll pardon the expression, on because mad respect to my chickens, but I feel as though the marijuana reclassification, you made me think of it when you're talking about different policies and different things that might affect the youth vote. The reclassification of marijuana wasn't really the kind of reclassification that affects legalization in a big way, except for those purveyors of legal weed who can now entitled all kinds of tax benefits. And from a business standpoint, it helps them. But did the government kind of they kind of blinked, I feel like. They didn't come all the way on marijuana legalization.
Yeah, right. I don't disagree with you. What I also don't think is that it matters so much as I think that for the people who care about marijuana, not in the legal or illegal ways or the criminalized or decriminalized ways. I'm just thinking marijuana doesn't feel as illegal as it used to. It is pervasive. And I don't think it is, that they're a chain link fence around marijuana that used to be there anymore. And so to that end, I'm not sure how much of a political issue it is, except for those who represent the legal growers and the legal, merchants of marijuana. I don't think it's a big political issue right now. So I think sidestepping it, which is what I agree was done, isn't the end of the world politically or the beginning of the world either.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't mean to hammer away at that youth vote, but I just sort of see it's so interesting to me that the things that do influence or might influence. I mean, here you've got this president and this administration. They're trying to find ways to forgive student debt. They're trying to reclassify marijuana. They're doing certain things that you'd think might resonate with that group of voters. But go ahead.
There's always this sort of heels in the ground crowd, right? I mean, the president is threatening Israel with not giving weapons, yet Muslim Americans are like, too little, too late. Well, that's what they want. They want to use what we give to Israel as a bargaining chip for how Israel is treating the Palestinians. So their people are never all going to be happy. I also want to say that I'm not dismissing the youth vote at all. The youth vote, a very important vote. The Democrats cannot afford to lose any vote from 2020. They cannot afford to not have black voters come out, to not have young voters come out, to not have union members and environmentalists come out. They have to make sure that because I do believe that if they are able to motivate their natural constituencies, that they're going to win the election. If they are not, I think they're going to have a big struggle on their hands in the next election. And I think it's because of the fact that Donald Trump has not really won over many new voters. It's not like there's this sort of swarm of voter support toward him, but Democrats can only win by getting their voters out, which is, an obvious thing to say. It's like, oh, well, it's all about get out the vote. It's all about turnout, right? But if you dig deeper, because of course it's about turnout, you need the numbers, but you have to make sure that those constituencies themselves turn out.
Well, I would say this as well, Michael. I think this will be seems clear based on some of the things we've talked about already, an election that is going to be contested. They're ready to contest it already, and they haven't even had it yet. And for that reason, you need an even bigger victory, I suspect. I mean, that's what I'd like to see anyway. Whether you need it or not, I don't know.
It's going to be a close election electorally in the Electoral College. And I think in the popular vote, it's really up to the Democrats to make sure that every natural constituent for Democratic politics comes out in November. It's, hard to do that, but the president, this is going to be a summer where people are running for president. And so where we sit now and how we look at it now isn't going to matter as much as how things develop and where that campaign targets. And I
hate to finish with this question, but I will, or this subject, and that is RFK Jr. The latest headline is, I had a worm in my brain.
What?
And it was diagnosed with okay. Give me he won't commit to he won't commit to much when it comes to the other two candidates, Trump and Biden. Give me another 45 seconds to a minute on RFK Jr., please, sir.
We clearly need a worm vaccine in this country. But don't tell him. What RFK? I still believe that he hurts. Look, there, and I'll do this quickly. There are Republicans who could never vote for Joe Biden. There are Republicans who really don't want to vote for Donald Trump. And to be able to say, I didn't vote for the Democrat, but I voted for RFK Jr. because I couldn't bring myself to vote for Trump. That's a safe space to go. So when you look at independent voters in America, right, I don't believe there are a tremendous number of people whose mind isn't made up. I think the hardest people to pin down are the Republicans who don't like Trump. So by giving a little bit of an escape hatch to some of those voters, you are hurting the Republican candidate. As far as how he affects Democrats, it's unclear. That name is very important, especially to Southern Democrats, especially to Black Southern Democrats, who may come out and say, well, what has Joe Biden done for me, as they would say about many presidents? And, well, RFK Jr., I remember his daddy. I remember what he did for our region in noticing it and touring it and trying to tackle poverty. So there's going to be some fall off from Democrats in the South for sure, but that's not where the Democrats need Georgia, and they'd love to have North Carolina, they'd love to have Virginia, but I don't think that this is a Southern election, but that's where it could hurt Democrats.
As we finish up with Michael Shure, Albert, I call upon you with any kind of notions about hockey that you'd like to share with Michael. I saw that they are.
I congratulate Albert because the San Jose Sharks won the draft lottery and they get Macklin Celebrini, which is huge.
Yeah, and Mark, he has ties to the Golden State Warriors organization, so we could tie that into everything else that's going on. Yet we won the #1 pick. Every time I watch the Rangers games, they're playing against the Hurricanes. They seem to score a goal every time. So
yeah, the Rangers look good. I don't think this is their toughest test. If Florida comes out of that next one, it's going to be tough. If Florida doesn't, I now would be a believer in the Rangers to win the Stanley Cup. But we'll see what Edmonton does. They score lots and lots of goals, and they tire out defenses, even though they lost a stunner the other night. But, well, we could talk about this all night.
Yes, and I wish you would off the air.
I've forgotten more than hockey.
Yeah. You can find him across the great World Wide Web. The brilliant Michael Shure. We love speaking with you on Fridays. Thank you so much, Michael.
Hey, guys.
Okay, Michael Shure, everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
The Turbo News is ahead, a big newscast with Kim. If there are any comments I need to attend to, Albert, I need to know them now. To get behind.
Nutritionist
Liz. Welcome, Peggy. I must be someone named Peggy getting into the chat. Big love to Mark and the crew, including Michael Snyder. How about that?
Yeah.
Snyder gets a shout out. That's pretty cool. Nutritionist Liz, big shout out to you.
Big shout out.
Thank you for the $10 super chat. And she gave us a great email yesterday. If you missed it, you can, I think it's at the beginning of yesterday's show, so you can check that out. William Geip with a $3 super sticker. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Quite lovely. Yeah. Smash the like button like a boss,
Smashed
if you
it
would.
with your iron rod.
Luis. Whoa. What is this? Sammy Rubin has passed away? What? No. Is that right? Sammy, I know you're covering all the heavenly entertainment. Much thanks and love. What is this? Is that right? Can you check that?
I'm checking it.
KTLA?
Yeah.
That's shocking if it's true.
It is true. According to
What?
TMZ, he's passed away a fatal heart attack, age 64.
Oh,
I'm so
my
sorry, Mark. I know
God.
he's such a good friend of yours.
I love him.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, my God. This is incredible to me.
Yeah, here's the TMZ website. If you're looking at the screen, you can see he's suffered a fatal heart attack. Oh.
I can't believe this.
Yeah.
I absolutely can't believe it.
Oh.
Oh my
what
God,
sad
this is
news
the worst
today.
News. Jeez, this
Yeah,
is
thank you
terrible.
for letting us know. Gosh.
Louise, thank you. And I know you said it in such a beautiful way, but what a horrible piece of news.
Mm.
Oh my God, I'm just astounded. Oh, wow. All right, well, I don't mean to bring everybody down, but I'm just
he's been on the show a couple of times. I know you've worked together. He's a good
I
friend
love him.
of yours.
He's been to my house
Yeah.
countless times. He's
Yeah.
let me host. I used to have for every year, I had a vegan potluck for Thanksgiving. We called it a Straggler's Thanksgiving because we did it a few days after Thanksgiving. And after the fire, I had no place to do it. I didn't have a house anymore. And Sam said, have it at my house. And we did. Oh.
So he died today after being rushed to the hospital, UCLA West Hills. The folks at TMZ say they're told he suffered a heart attack at his home, went into full cardiac arrest. He was transported by ambulance, but he didn't survive it. So he's been with KTLA since 1991, mainstay in Southern California homes covering entertainment, TV, movies, all kinds of things, fun and memorable segments that he has done. He had a Golden Mike Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Southern California Broadcasters Association, and he was once named the best entertainment reporter by the Los Angeles Press Club.
Oh, he's absolutely one of the most brilliant talents I've ever worked around. He communicated and worked so hard. He communicated so well, and he worked so hard, and his segment was so much fun. I'm astounded by this, I must tell you. I think I'm in that still denial period. I just can't believe this. I mean, he's such a young guy. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Does this stuff happen? People start dropping dead in their 60s from a heart attack?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my God, man. I'm so troubled. I'm just so bummed by that. Well, thank you for that news. And my heart is with his family.
He survived by his wife, Leslie, and their 4 children.
He's had these great kids who have done such great things, and he has, he's been such a great dad. He really has, in many ways. Like, I never saw Sam as the kind of guy who would go on a Boy Scout. And I used to say to him, who are you? You going on these Boy Scout expeditions for 10 days? But he does, and he did. It's really, really a sad day, man. That is the most devastating news. I am really crushed by that.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there you have it. Okay. Snyder next. I promise I'll pull it together and we'll continue. Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Let's get right to Trump, because the former president's hush money trial is finished for the day. The prosecution could wrap up its case by the end of next week. One of the last remaining witnesses for the prosecution will be Michael Cohen. So we can all have that to look forward to. But he is not closing his mouth about all of this. He says the hush money trial is a sham. While exiting the court today, Trump again slammed his gag order, noting star witness Michael Cohen can say anything. The jury might start deliberating soon after the prosecution told the judge that they plan to call just 2 more witnesses and that they could rest their case by the end of the week. A Florida Republican is trying to impeach President Biden for halting weapons shipments to Israel. In an interview, President Biden said this week that he will, let me take former President Trump's picture down, that he will halt the shipments. He will continue to supply defensive weapons to Israel, but that the U.S. would not provide offensive weapons like bombs if Israel proceeds with a full-scale invasion of Rafah. So Republicans have slammed President Biden over the threat, and Representative Corey Mills is now announcing he's prepping articles of impeachment against President Biden. So the impeachment game continues, is what we know. The 2 climate activists in their 80s are under arrest after breaking the glass protecting Britain's historic Magna Carta. The pair entered the British Library in London Friday morning, smashing the glass case, then glued themselves to the document's enclosure. The British Library says its security team intervened, and the 1215 Magna Carta remains undamaged for now. Whew. The activists they're going after the fine works of art, all kinds of things. There are recovery teams preparing to bring down the bodies of 2 skiers who died in an avalanche in Utah. This happened in the Lone Peak Summit area of the Little Cottonwood Canyon on Thursday, right outside Salt Lake City. The bodies will be hoisted down from the mountain for transport to the medical examiner's office. There was 1 skier there who survived because he was able to dig himself out. Rates are going up. At Planet Fitness, they're raising their $10 a month membership plan for the first time in 26 years. The largest gym chain in the nation, Planet Fitness, will now charge $15 for its classic membership starting this summer. Executives at Planet Fitness didn't note why the company is hiking the price by 50% for the first time since 1998. They do come as highest interest rates, though, higher interest rates, and construction expenses is continuing to slow down gym openings. So that may be what that is all about. Everybody wants more money for everything. It's the way it is. Taylor Swift is in Paris. She's kicking off the European leg of her Eras tour. The 34-year-old superstar performing at Paris La Défense Arena last night, adding some new songs to her set list, including her new #1 hit Fortnight from her latest album, The Tortured Poets Department. Swift has 3 more shows in Paris before going on tour for the summer. She'll be stopping in Lisbon, Stockholm, Madrid, and Dublin before wrapping up her European tour in London this August. A lot of people who couldn't get tickets to the show here in America have decided that maybe it's a good time to go see it in Europe. So maybe there's a lot of Americans heading over to see those shows.
I heard the tickets in Paris weren't that expensive.
No, and much
sources.
Easier to get a hold of as well. So, I mean, that's the way it goes.
You have to get a ticket though to go and a hotel, so it might just add up to be a lot more. But you'll be in Paris.
You're going to be excited to know this. Justin and Hailey Bieber are expecting a child. Yeah. The couple posted the same carousel on Instagram showing them in a photo shoot with Hailey Bieber dressed in white, holding her stomach, or her abdomen. The pair got married in 2018, and according to one of the photos, they appear to have renewed their vows during the photo shoot as well. So
happy for them. Still skeptical about how the whole origin of that relationship and how it started. I subscribe to that, Kim. I'm not sure if you're into that either.
Oh no! Why was there some scandal over how it started?
It's just like some controversy and some tinfoil hat type of things.
Oh yeah.
I'd rather not bring it up.
Well, we're getting into movie reviews with the culture blaster Michael Snyder. And I'll kind of give this summer bummer news. The summer box office is expected to come up short of pre-pandemic numbers. For the first time since 2009, the summer box office doesn't have a Marvel film to kick off the movie season. Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine will be out July 26th, but it's the first R-rated movie from Marvel. Disney's Planet of the Apes is tracking for a domestic opening weekend of between 55 and 60 million. Paramount's If is looking at about 40 million. Analysts believe the summer movie season will exceed $3 billion in ticket sales, but just barely. Before COVID, the summer box office could consistently top more than $4 billion. So
I think we needed a break from a Marvel movie, also from the Marvel Disney Plus content. So that should be good. And the rated R and Deadpool is it's like a cult classic for all the more adult Super Marvel fans.
Speaking of movies, there is a new batch of Lord of the Rings films. Were you a Lord of the Rings fan?
Yeah, at the time with the original trilogy.
They're going to be released in 2026, Albert. Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum will focus on the character Gollum, and it will see Andy Serkis reprise the role from the original trilogy. Serkis is also serving as director. An animated film from the franchise titled Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim is set to be released December 13th. So Lord of the Rings stuff kind of heating up.
Yeah, and that guy was also in one of the main protagonists in the original Black Panther that came out a few years ago. Speaking of Marvel, yeah.
I am impressed by your movie knowledge. So impressed. This report, sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It really is the best. The tea, the coffee, the service, they call you right back. I called the other day to ask something about the date tea and whether it had how many grams of sugar it had in it. And the owner of the company calls me right back, just like that. Amazing. You can find a huge selection
don't
of
encourage people to call the company, Kim.
You know, I'm just saying.
And I will tell you, the second call he made was to me saying, please ask Kim not to call the...
Please tell Kim don't call me anymore. Yeah. Well, that's not very nice of you.
No, he didn't. He is terrific, and
he really is
are
nice.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. They are. And you get your 10% discount just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener.
Again, everything is hand roasted too. You know, they were pitched this huge automated kind of thing, and he said, no. Well, we like to hand roast every bag. Every single bag of coffee is hand roasted.
When you get to the point at the checkout, when you need to enter your code, it's Mark T. You enter that at your checkout, you get your 10% off, and then your coffee or your tea arrives right on your porch, and it's a happy day.
Last thing I will say about that is you can subscribe. Like they'll do those where you can get 2 pounds of coffee a month or 5 pounds of coffee every 90 days, whatever it may be. Sometimes you get better values on that, and you still get the 10% off. So I'm saying you get a better value and the 10% off. The website's got a lot going on. It's Coachella Valley Coffee. We love it, and I do encourage you to pick up some of knock around the website. You can pick up anything on the website you want. They've got the coffee. It's like Starbucks. So it's like the coffee, those special coffee tumblers and stuff like that. It's all there. And put in the discount code when you check out, and you'll get 10% off everything. So enjoy.
Right. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We're devastated by the news about Sam Rubin here. We thank all our Patreon and PayPal supporters, and you'll indulge us here because I'm really just trying to keep it together. Such a great guy. Michael Snyder's here, and before I bring you on, Michael, with your actual segment where you review and you have all your funny material and all the crap you usually hit us with. I know you work in that same world with Sam, and you probably have seen him at my house a bunch of times in various. So you may have something to say about it. I wanted to give you a chance to say
Well,
something.
I will say that I've met him here at your house, and I was lucky enough to be at his home when he hosted your Stragglers Thanksgiving.
Sure.
The year that your home in Brentwood was burned out. And honestly, he was warm. He was welcoming. Every time I had an interaction with him, I did feel like I was in the presence of a greater colleague. His work on KTLA was unparalleled in terms of being on point, being comfortable with the stars. He was just the kind of broadcaster that you aspire to be. He seemed to be at ease in front of the camera and not flustered by much. But the ultimate response I get when I think about the guy is, oh my God, such a nice person. And isn't that the ultimate accolade? He was a nice man.
Yeah,
For all
I
the sound.
really loved him. I really did. And as you say, and I think I'm so glad you say it, his comfort on camera, his ability to communicate, so terrific. Thank you, Luis, for remembering Sam this way. And honestly, Luis is the reason that we know about it today. Luis came onto the chat with this super chat saying a beautiful spirit that will live on for all. Someone else have to read that.
Yes, Luis says, Sam Rubin, a beautiful spirit that will live on through all of those he touched. This sucks, Mark. I grieve with you, my friend, and thank you for having him on your show. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark. It's just a rough day. It's hard to find out that you've lost a good friend during the show while you're in the middle of all of this. S. Jones writing, in LA, Sam was the guy. I watched him forever. Yeah. Alan Rossi thinks Sam was really tired after Oscar duties, that he was in bed when you interviewed him. I don't know if that has anything to do.
That's right. I forgot. He was on our show from bed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was.
And he did the red carpet for the Emmys, for the Oscars.
Yeah.
The guy worked so hard, and he was all over the world, you know.
Yeah.
On
the
those various boondoggles we used to give a hard time about.
The post-Oscar bed interview was just exquisite, really effective and funny and sweet. I will remember Sam in bed. That's what I will remember him as being.
He was just so great.
Anyway,
you can find our conversations with Sam here on the channel if you want to go back. A really, really sad day. So I'll try to,
it's really
keep it
hard
together.
It's hard to get the news this way, especially when you're live on the air like this. So if you want to step away, I'm happy to hang out with Michael and do movie reviews.
Well, thank you for saying. I may need to, but I'll try to do it with you, helping.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Kim is my rock, and Albert is. What are you, Albert? You're not a rock, really. You're,
No,
Albert, thank you.
I'm the bar that's set kind of low.
Yes, that's true.
Also, can you
What's
turn up
below a
Michael
rock?
just a tad, please?
if we're going to lean on the Simon and Garfunkel song, he's the island.
I see.
Yes.
I didn't know. I wasn't.
I am a rock. I'm an island.
Oh, I see. Okay, good. All right.
And Mark, before we get started, can you just turn up Michael just a little bit?
Michael, I've got to turn you up, or you could stay on mic. Did that ever occur?
That
to
works
you, Michael?
too. I'm not
Don't
there.
be blaming me, boss. My mouth
Mic-
is
mic
right
placement.
next to this foamy thing.
I've got him cranked up. 1 second. 1 second. Oh my God, Michael.
Yeah, Calvin Long's calling me the stone. Kim's the rock, I'm the stone. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Anyway.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I was going to just say I do want to lighten the mood a little bit. I did want to weigh in on Sam, but let's. You know what? He would have wanted us to soldier on. Buddy.
No, I think I hate it when people say that, but it is true.
No, it's.
I know it really is true. You go, Mark.
Etiquette.
Yeah, you do your show. I get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there'll be time. I hope Michael is cranked up. I cranked you up as much as I could here.
Sure.
That's good.
Okay, good. And just please speak into the microphone, Michael. You are a professional, so please don't let me down that way.
You are
do it for
me,
Sam. God damn it.
Okay.
All right. He comes, on Fridays. The Culture Blaster. He writes in. What's the new publication?
The Voice of San Francisco.
The Voice of San Francisco. He writes about movies, music. He really is the Culture Blaster, and he comes and goes on a rainbow. How about it for the great Michael Snyder?
Happy Happy Mother's Day weekend, everybody. Do your best to get out there and celebrate your mom. I am sending love to our favorite mother, Kim. She's here
thank
every
you.
weekday.
Isn't that sweet?
And
Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
I know what a dedicated mother she is. I'm gonna send love to Mark's mother because
I blame you.
without her, we don't get the magnificent Mark Thompson.
Oh, thank
to
you.
your mama, to my mama, to everybody's mama. Happy Mother's Day to all. If you are in the Bay Area, by the way, I have a Mother's Day gift suggestion. Chocolate-covered Hagen burgers. They are warm and gooey and delicious. And if you're not in the Bay Area, because we do cover the West Coast, you could get the RFK Jr. Mother's Day special, a chocolate-covered worm. Delicious.
I get it.
By the way, before we get to the movie reviews, I've had a song running in my head all week. I'm going to say a line. I know why Donald Trump's about to cry. Stormy Daniels. It's an old classic.
Yeah.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
applaud that, Albert. That's disgusting.
I'm sorry.
All right.
It's the solar magnetic storm. I apologize.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that at least that there's a legitimate excuse.
That's the best I could come up
Are
with.
you going to review that Planet of the Apes movie that I'm hearing about? They say that it's going to be like the biggest weekend of the year because of Planet of the Apes.
The industry is holding its breath and hoping that this will give a boost to the summer box office, even though it's May. Does this count as summer box office stuff? I think so. So let's get down to it. I didn't go ape crazy for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is the latest movie in the Planet of the Apes movie series. But as sure as I like a banana on my Cheerios, I gobbled it up. I thought it was a well-conceived, nicely performed, and beautifully rendered piece of big screen entertainment that works well as a continuation of the current iteration of the dystopian Homo sapiens versus smart simians science fiction franchise. Man,
Wow, that was a ton of dingwares.
that's a mouthful. Yeah. It's as big a mouthful as the title of the movie. For clarification, let me point out that it's the fourth installment in 20th century's ongoing resuscitation of a movie property that began back in 1968 with the blockbuster hit Planet of the Apes.
Resuscitation's a dingware.
It adapted Pierre Boulle's 1963 novel of the same name and starred, we all remember, Charlton Heston and those damn dirty apes.
The makeup guy for Planet of the Apes,
Bud Westmore?
with the one of the lead guys. He wasn't Bud. There were other makeup people on it. They had to make up as you know, they had to make up the extras with the prosthetics. I mean, it was an incredible makeup
Are you
job.
saying too much monkey business?
He was the father of our makeup guy in Los Angeles, at my station in Los Angeles. And he actually had pictures. He brought in a scrapbook. I asked him to see, do you have any pictures from the set? And back then, there were no digital pictures. And he brought in pictures of, Roddy McDowell and all the rest of them.
And Kim Hunter was...
Yeah, Kim Hunter being made up in the various prostheses. Really amazing.
Well, 4 more Apes movies of varying quality were cranked out between 70 and 73 to kind of capitalize on the popularity of the film that kicked it off. And
But it's enjoyed a renaissance now, right?
It took a while, though. There was a less successful one-film revival courtesy of Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake in 2001. Not a fan. And then this complete back-to-square-one revival kicked off in 2011 with I would call it an invigorating, somewhat present-day rise of the Planet of the Apes with James Franco as the lead human. And this is the setup. He genetically enhances the intellect of a young ape named Caesar, played by Andy Serkis, Gollum himself, using motion capture, while a virus that's deadly to humans ravages the planet. And that is what gets us into Dawn of the Planet of the Apes with Gary Oldman as the lead human, War for the Planet of the Apes with Woody Harrelson as the lead human. All of these recent efforts have been smartly written, very well acted, and enhanced by advances in special effects that replace the prosthetic ape makeup of the 60s and 70s with this hyper-realistic motion capture computer-generated imagery. So Kingdom is set many decades after the intellect of our hairy predecessors on the evolutionary scale was boosted. They are now the dominant species on Earth, and what's left of the human population has been reduced to savagery. And apes have built clans, most of them living in peace, but one would-be dictator who calls himself Donaldus Trumpus Apus. Proximus Caesar, after the more benign progenitor ape of the other movies.
Yeah, Caesar was the the progenitor. Very good.
This guy is trying to basically capitalize on Caesar's name, and he wants to basically be the king. It's crazy. He has these simian shock troops who violently round up peaceful apes to become his enslaved subjects. So our hero is Noah of the Eagle Clan, whose members actually train predator birds as pets and hunting companions. And when the Eagle Clan's village is raided, Noah survives and decides to hit the road to try and save his two best friends and his mom, happy Mother's Day, Noah, who were abducted by the Proximus Goon Squad. And along the way, he meets a wise orangutan and a human female, the likes of which he has never imagined. So leaning into the masterful motion capture tech, Owen Teague is fantastic as Noah, expressive, noble, and brave. Peter Macon, who was the gruff but lovable alien Bortus on the Orville TV show, is wonderful as Raka, the orangutan, and Kevin Durand is fearsome as Proximus. We do have humans. Freya Allen, quite good as May, this enigmatic human woman. And hey, wait. Is that William H. Macy? Yes, it is.
Wow.
So just to wrap up, the mocap and the computer-generated sets continue to attain new heights of sort of seamless believability, and Westball's direction is action plus. If Josh Friedman's script sputters here and there as he tries to top previous apathons and deliver a bunch of socially relevant subtexts while setting up the next chapter in the saga, you know what? So be it. Not quite as tight and powerful as Rise, Dawn, and War, but this kingdom bodes well for more Monkey Shines. It is in theaters starting today.
It is something that shows promise then. Sounds like, Michael, you're right on board with what everybody's saying about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
True that. Okay, so here's a weird thing. It's a sequel that's not really truly a sequel. There was a movie a few years ago called The Dry. The Dry was based on a global bestseller about an Australian federal agent who goes home to the small town this is where he was raised in the arid hinterlands of Australia, thus The Dry, and he wants to investigate a murder, and it basically throws the whole town asunder. Very good movie, The Dry, and it starred
Asunder's a dang word.
Eric Bana as this guy.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Federal agent Aaron Falk. Well, Falk is back in Force of Nature, which is a follow-up, and for some reason, commercial considerations probably, it's subtitled The Dry 2. I have no. It's in like
Wow,
a
that's
lush.
a weird. Yeah.
It's in like a lush, wooded region, but that's what they called it. Anyway, it's the investigative adventures of Aaron Falk, and both of these movies again are based on best-selling novels by Jane Harper. There's a third book in the series that could be adapted if if it goes as well as The Dry. This time out, Falk and his partner Carmen join the search for a missing woman named Alice who disappeared while on a wilderness retreat with 4 other female co-workers. The agents join the local cops to find Alice because she has access to valuable information that they seek to bring down the corrupt head of the company that employs her. So, they have a rooting interest in digging this woman up. Pardon the
So to
expression.
speak, right.
The setting is a relatively lush, wooded, and mountainous area of Australia, as I said. It's about to be assaulted by a series of rainstorms. So calling this The Dry 2 as a subtitle, kind of a silly misnomer. There's a lot of flashing back and intercut narration. Not as taut as The Dry, but it still kept my interest regarding Alice's fate.
Misnomer.
And the outcome of the case that Falk and Carmen are working. The cast is on point and features a few familiar faces, specifically Anna Torv, who was on the Fox TV show Fringe as Alice, Jacqueline McKenzie, who was on the 4400 and was in Malignant. She plays Carmen. And get this, Deborah Lee Furness, the veteran actress who happens to be the wife of Hugh Jackman for decades. They're still together, and she plays Alice's manager and the wife of the big boss at the company. Robert Connolly, who wrote and directed The Dry, returned to take on the same duties for Force of Nature, and the results are generally good. Even if it isn't quite up to The Dry, it is in select theaters.
Wow. Seems like you generally liked it.
Generally speaking.
Yes.
And now, here's the sad portion of today's show.
Oh, no.
Where talent is frittered away on a movie project that I had great hopes for. Pool Man is a Los Angeles neo-noir quasi-comedy. And I say quasi-comedy because laughs are in short supply here. It's directed, get ready, co-written, and starring Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
That Chris Pine, the immensely likable star of the recent Sword and Sorcery, Fun
Star
Fest.
Trek guy. And,
Dungeons and Dragons, Captain Kirk in the big screen Star Trek reboot. In Pool Man, he plays the title character, Darren Barronman, a well-meaning, conspiracy-oriented, no, we'll say conspiracy-obsessed pool man at one of those slightly seedy L.A. motel-style apartment complexes. So Darren wants the best for his hometown, and to that end, he haunts city council meetings and rambles on and on about various civic improvement ideas he has, to the chagrin of most council members. The character seems kind of self-absorbed to the point of being wasted, and in fact, there are hallucinogenic sequences that are not drug-inspired, but simply the product of Darren's generally spaced out demeanor.
It is feeling Lebowski-ish, though. Is he a Lebowski-type character?
There is a Lebowski element. Good call, Mark. You didn't even see the movie, and you jumped on that.
Right.
Bravo. Anyway, I'll just say that even though he uncovers a plot to leech off LA's precious water reserves during a drought, he seems pretty wasted most of the time. And here's the sad part. Speaking of wasted, Pine has gathered a bunch of excellent, well-regarded performers to support him, but they're let down by a circuitous dialogue stuffed script that never hits the spot. They are all
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
No, I think this is almost fact.
Okay.
Pine is game, so is everybody else. This is clearly a passion project for him. With Annette Bening and Danny DeVito as Darren's neighbors.
Well, that has to be funny or good.
And he plays the neighbors and parental figures, and they give their all. Are you ready for an esteemed actress? Jennifer Jason Leigh plays his disgruntled girlfriend.
Wow.
And there are character actors supreme in this. Clancy Brown, Stephen Tobolowsky, Ray Wise. You may remember him from Twin Peaks. They're all on board. The cast is an embarrassment of riches, and I could make an embarrassment as a keyword joke, but that would be unduly harsh. I didn't hate it, but I tolerated it thanks to the enthusiasm everybody brought to the project, as well as my love of Los Angeles-based film noir. And,
sure. And it is film noir.
Yeah, well, they try to do that. There are blatant references to the setting and retro Raymond Chandlerisms of the superb and classic Roman Polanski motion picture Chinatown.
Sure.
And that only diminishes Pool Man by comparison. It is in theater.
Has it ever occurred to you that instead of running around blaming me, given the nature of all this news, this could be a lot more complex. I mean, it might not be just such a simple,
That's probably, that sort of delivery is about 2/3 of the movie. But come on, let's
what
wrap
else
up.
do you have?
Let's wrap up the movie segment.
All right, please.
And speaking of passion projects, a more successful one, even if it's sort of a boilerplate period biopic, is Jeanne du Barry, which is directed, co-written, and starring French actress Maïwenn. She plays the title role of Louis XV's favorite courtesan. And this features none other than part-time French resident Johnny Depp as Louis.
Wow.
So make no mistake, though, Mark, despite her globally recognized co-star, this is Maïwenn's movie. For most of Depp's scenes, he just lays around like a king does in the lap of luxury. Not a taxing role. Let's just say that when his Louis isn't bedecked in finery and slowly strolling past lines of adoring courtiers and supplicants, he's generally, stretched out on plush couches, eating fruit, drinking wine, or humping Jean on the royal bed when he isn't screwing another mistress.
Right.
It's nice work if you can get it.
Well, I mean, how much of a part of the movie is he?
He is significant because their relationship is what sustains her
I
at
see.
court. But, it's clearly Maïwenn's film. Madame du Barry and Maïwenn are the focus, and she acquits herself in stylish fashion, especially in the performance as du Barry, the poor bastard girl from a convent who leaves that poverty behind to live the high life at the palace when she enchants and reinvigorates Louis XV. Of course, the aristocrats, especially a couple of Louis's daughters, hate her and plot against her, but Jean, adored by the king, is undaunted. even if the overall impact of Jean du Barry is rather muted, it's a decent diversion for those people who are interested in pre-revolution power plays and shenanigans at Versailles. It is in theaters.
Wow. I thought you were going to really take a sort of ugly Michael Snyder blowtorch to it, but you didn't in the end.
I would have liked to, but I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it, Mark. I just, I'm a Francophile. What can I tell you?
You are that. You're a French-speaking fool. What else do you have for us? I'll give you one more.
Okay, how about a quick thing on some TV show? Well, at least one TV show I'm really excited about, and I had an inquiry from a couple listeners about it. Three-Body Problem.
Three-Body Problem.
Is on Netflix. It's an American science fiction TV series created by, and here's your pedigree, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, who are the guys behind Game of Thrones. And Alexander Wu, and it's based on a Hugo Award-winning Chinese novel called The Three-Body Problem. It's the second live-action adaptation after the 2023 Chinese television series, and they spared no expense here. The series premiered on Netflix with 8 episodes on March 21st, and I finally got around to watching the whole thing. It's about an astrophysicist who sees her father beaten to death during a struggle in the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and she is conscripted by the military. And due to her scientific background, she's sent to a secret military base in a very remote region. And her decision at the base is to react to contact from an alien planet. And all of that implicates a group of scientists in the present day. So it swings from the past in revolutionary China to the modern day as we're having first contact, or what appears to be first contact. So it could be a threat. It could be a boon. This thing has Jovan Adepo from The Leftovers and Jack Ryan, John Bradley from Game of Thrones, Rosalind Chow from Deep Space Nine, and Benedict Wong, Jonathan Pryce. Great cast and complex and engaging and engrossing. Three-Body Problem on Netflix. If you're a sci-fi fan, it's the smart sci-fi.
How many episodes, sir?
There are, if I'm not mistaken, a total of 8 episodes, and worth your time.
Great. I may check that out. Three-Body Problem is what it's called. Sci-fi from the guys behind Game of Thrones. Find it on Netflix. Jean du Barry with May Wen as Madame du Barry and Johnny Depp. He likes it. I would say that Michael liked it. If I had to apply a letter grade to it, I'd give it a B- maybe is what I'm getting from you.
B-, C+. It does what it wants to do.
All right. Pool Man is the Chris Pine movie. He wrote it. He stars in it. He's got it chock full of other stars based on what you're saying.
Doesn't this sound a little bit like unfrosted Jerry Seinfeld?
It's funny, as you were telling us about it, I thought, oh, this is Chris Pine's Unfrosted. That's what this is. But it is, you didn't like Unfrosted, I'll remind everybody. But so to put it in context, Pool Man is not all the way over. You really didn't think there was much redeeming about Unfrosted. But this, you thought, just misses. It's not super bad, like no waste of time. I got from you, it's just kind of meh. It's sort of
it's the tedium problem, and you can't do something like this and not beg for comparisons with The Big Lebowski, as you pointed out, and Chinatown. And
right. So
yeah, it's
now I'm intrigued though. I love the idea, by the way, of. Well, we used to do a thing on the radio called City Council Theater, where people come on, they make their speeches in front of the city council. It's just absolute craziness. It still happens. And I love the idea that Chris Pine has integrated that into his character.
Right, his harangues are great. And Stephen Tobolowsky, who he's a great character
too. We should get him on this show.
From Groundhog Day and many films.
He was on my old podcast.
He is up front. The long-suffering head of the council is to deal with Chris Pine's character.
Okay, that's terrific. So that's Pool Man. Again, kind of misses for Michael, but it is out there in theaters. The Eric Bana film, which is a sequel, Force of Nature, The Dry 2. It's the mystery thriller. It's Robert Connolly who wrote and directed it. And again, it's the sequel to The Dry. And Eric Bana and Robert Connolly, who wrote and directed it. And again, it's the sequel to The Dry. And Eric Bana and Deborah Lee Furness has a small part, I think.
It's a fairly significant role.
Plays the wife of the boss of the company. It's investigative adventures of Aaron Falk and looking for a missing woman. Everyone wants to find her for different reasons, is what I got.
Right. It's not. It should be clear. It's not really a sequel to the drama. It's the continuation of the adventures of Aaron Falk.
Okay. And you liked it. I kind of got the impression you liked it. Yes.
I
okay.
did. I liked it a skosh better than Jean Dubarry, but I kind of revel in that kind of period.
You like that
Frenchy
French stuff,
history,
yeah. You like to, you like the française, huh?
C'est vrai.
And he started with the much anticipated, certainly anticipated by Hollywood, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Michael says not as good as some of the other iterations of the various Apes movies, but not bad.
Oh, it's considerably better than the sequels to the first movie back in the 60s.
Well,
and 70s.
better than those, but I'm talking about in the modern age.
In this quartet of films, it's maybe the least of them, but that says a lot of positive things about what they've done by reinventing the property, and they've done a good job, and this is a good movie.
Well, that's a very high-end review with suggesting sort of these latest iterations, the quartet of films. I hear you, Michael. I hear your verbiage and how you frame everything now with a new appreciation for the way they are looking at this project and reimagining it. I hear you, Michael. I hear you. I don't think a lot of people hear you. I hear you.
That's a beautiful thing. And I want to say, before we sign off, my current column in The Voice of San Francisco, which you can read at thevoicesf.org, is all about franchise fatigue, and it brings up Deadpool and Wolverine. It brings up this Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and the later installments of franchises that have faltered because they went to the well once too often.
I'm going to read. Is that available now?
Absolutely.
And it's Voice of San Francisco? What is it?
It's at thevoicesf.org.
thevoicesf.org.
Right. Franchise fatigue.
I think that's a terrific subject. I'm so glad you took it on. You can find Michael Snyder there at thevoicesf.org. We have it there on the screen for you. And you can find him here every Friday. He is the Culture Blaster. And thank you for your reflections on my dear friend Sam. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael.
I'm going to say it, go Giants. It's going to be an uphill battle.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're used to uphill battles lately. That seems to be the Giants' way.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, I must tell you, it's been a day I don't really remember too well because of this latest news. Very, very tough news about my dear friend Sam Rubin. I'll tell you a quick Sam Rubin story from when we both, when I was just starting, I'd just come to Los Angeles from San Francisco. And Fox, the station where I was, Fox 11, none of the politics of Fox was in the station at that time. And it was run by Barry Diller, the guy who was in the, if you missed the first hour of the show, Barry Diller was running the whole company at that time. Okay, not the specific station. He was running all of Fox. I mention this because he was looking for outstanding personalities and outstanding people who sort of popped on TV. And I'm really flattered to say that I was one of the guys that he felt he wanted to bring to L.A. because he thought that I was one of those people. So, yeah. But this is not really a story about me, except for to kind of contextualize it and say that I saw Sam not long after I arrived when they started up a show that Barry Diller wanted to start called Fox Entertainment News. It was like Entertainment Tonight, but imagine Entertainment Tonight if they did all the financial stuff and all like the business, the real business of show business, okay? So it's not just celebrities on a red carpet. So it was kind of an innovative idea. Mm-hmm. And Jane Wells was on that show, who's been on this show before. Yeah. And Sam Rubin was on the show. Sam was not an entertainment reporter anywhere at that time. He was just on that show, Fox Entertainment News. We called it FEN at the time, Fox Entertainment News. So Sam was there, and I thought Sam was a brilliant personality, and he did a couple of things really well. First of all, he related to the camera really well and spoke to the audience very well. He communicated effectively, and he teased like no other talent to this day that I've ever heard. He would write a tease and give you a tease for what was coming up, and you were compelled based on that tease to watch that next segment. He was brilliant with his teases. And I told him at the
Master of the
time
tease, yes.
over and over, it's so much about the tease. So I went to management because at that time I was brought in. They kind of respected me. I was pretty well connected at that time. And I said, this guy, Sam Rubin, we should hire him for our newscast. You know, he's on Fox Entertainment News, but we ought to get him on our show regularly, give him a contract, because though we're all sort of independent contractors there on the show. And I pushed and I pushed and I pushed, and maybe I thought I had more pull than I did because they didn't hire him.
Oh, no.
And they hired him across the street. We were Channel 11, and across the street, Channel 5. Channel 5, KTLA, is where they hired him. And he went on to be a wrecking ball in the entertainment reporter world. He was all the brilliant stuff that is and was his work, Sam Rubin, and more. And he created all these franchises with the red carpet shows and all the rest, and then he just brought it every morning. And he helped take that show, that morning show on KTLA, to number one, a dominant number one. And they've not looked back. They're still a dominant number one. And he is a huge part of it. I mean, I don't know what the percentages would be, but the biggest percentage may go to him. So I miss him desperately. I remember him fondly, and personally a terrific guy. So that's just a reflection on the great Sam Rubin, who we lost today. So very, very tough day for us here.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Such a young guy, too, 64 years old. God almighty, what the... Unreal. Good show today, Albert. Thank you for Florida. Thank you for everything that's going on. I'm not going to read the comments because... Monday, we get back at it. So you can put the comments on, Albert. We will let the music play out and shadow, and I'll see you on Monday.
Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day. See you at the after party live in just a moment.
Bye-bye.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye.